Welcome to this preseason media edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Today is Wednesday, January 27th, 2026. Indiana baseball is just over 2 weeks away from a weekend opening series at number 11 North Carolina. The Hoosiers have been escaping the cold with practice sessions in John Mellencamp Pavillion. The media met with a pair of graduate student pitchers, including Mizzou transfer lefty Tony Neubeck and returning righty Gavin Seebold. We also heard from a pair of sophomore infielders, preseason All-American Jake Hanley and shortstop Cooper Malamazian. Head coach Jeff Mercer took questions to wrap up the session.
So, Tony, this will basically be like the first full season you've been able to pitch for quite a while. Can you talk about just how you're feeling now and how you're feeling about going into this season?
Yeah, no, it feels good. I've been feeling great. We're building up at this point. Each day is a fun adventure of being able to play baseball and being able to, do what we love. And I think all the guys are excited for these next 2 weeks to refine our craft and get into it. And I think this year should be a really fun year.
What was that rehab process like for you? I think it was over 2 years where you didn't see the mound. What was that process like?
I'm not going to lie. It wasn't fun. It wasn't exciting, but it was a difficult little journey that you kind of have to really rely on your team to be there for you and rely on the guys around you, and then you come to appreciate every day that you're out on the field and every inning you get a pitch after that. You really appreciate the joy of baseball and realize why you're playing the game.
Tony, with the injuries along the way, how was the transfer portal process for you?
Transfer portal was a journey for sure. You got a little bit of business here, a little bit of talking to new people, keeping it straight. But what I wanted to get out of the portal, I found here and found my home. And they really checked off all the boxes. The relationships I've built here has been strong. And I'm excited to then come here and make an impact.
This goes for both of you guys, but how do you think your experience just ties into your teammates? How do you think your teammates can build off what experience you have as a collegiate level?
I think for us too, but also just we have a lot of older guys. We're an old staff this year, but we also have a good group of young guys, and so I think our experience helps a ton because the younger guys come to us and they can be like, how does this work? How do we, navigate these situations or in-game situations? And I think us being here for quite a while has allowed us to help them with that easier transition.
Yeah, like Gavin said, it's us being there for the freshmen, the new guys that haven't seen a lot of playing time. What I want to do here is have the guys after me be better than I was. And that's really how we think about things as older guys, and then push them to be better, push the older guys to be better. And that's kind of the experience that we bring to the table in our last couple of years here.
Tony, what's it like to have Caden with you, coming from Mizzou with you here?
Yeah, that was definitely a pro of coming to Indiana, is knowing someone that's here. We were very close at Mizzou, and then coming here, being able to work together. We live together, we're roommates, stuff like that. Just having that familiarity with a whole new experience, and then being able to meet a whole new set of guys together, it's quite an experience.
Gavin, you have the most innings coming back. At this point, though, what are you trying to work on to maybe take another step forward in this coming season?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, I had the most innings coming back, but I think another part of that is just me trying to stay healthy. I mean, this is a sixth year, and so college baseball's taxing. And I think I'm just trying to stay healthy, and I spent a lot of time over the summer and over the fall trying to work on fine-tuning my arsenal, and I feel pretty confident right now going into the season. And so I'm thankful for DG and all he's done, and Myers, and just the coaching staff for helping me get to a better place than I was last year, which is the goal. So.
Gavin, with that, you played a couple different roles. You started games, you closed games. Are you comfortable in one way or another? Do you have an idea of what role you're going to be in this season?
I've heard that I'm probably going to be in the back half of games, but they've also told me, like, we trust you in either role, and I trust myself in either role, so whatever they need me to do, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I'm thankful to get innings and be a part of the team. So.
What did that What did that waiver process look like for you? When did you realize that you'd be back for another year?
Yeah, I think the year that I had surgery, it was my second year of college, the doctor that I was seeing was like, you'll have no problem getting a sixth year. And so I went into the whole process with the mindset of I'm going to be here for 6 years if I have to be. And so I think I felt pretty confident about it. They make me fill out a waiver and an essay. I explained everything, and it was a pretty easy transition for my situation.
Gavin, you talked about during the off season trying to work on fine-tuning your your pitch selection, your arsenal. I know Coach Sagerman is definitely a very analytical-based head coach, has a lot of thoughts behind the whole pitch modeling. How has working with him throughout your collegiate career really impacted your growth?
Yeah, I mean, D-Man's huge. He's always working to fine-tune us in any way we need it. I can go to him with arm care, just thoughts, feels, but also with work on the arsenal. And I think being able to have him and even Myers, both of them have been huge helps. And then obviously I had a whole year with DG. I feel like right now I'm at the best point that I could possibly be in.
Mm-hmm. And with that, for both you guys, are there any specific data points you guys kind of have been focusing on? Just spin rotation of the ball, just anything with force. Has there been any specific data points this offseason either of you guys have kind of honed in on?
For me personally, it was about getting the cutter in a better position. I think for me personally, in my head, I was thinking the cutter has to be a strike more. But they also wanted to change the shape a little bit, so we've adapted to that. But I think that pitch is at the best I've ever seen it, and so I'm happy with that. And then trying to continue to get right on the fastball, but I think it was mainly the cutter for me.
Yeah, for me it's not about a single data point, but how the data points work together. So just finding a way to have your pitches move the best they can. And it's not just a single pitch, it's how one pitch plays off another and how you can get that fine-tuned to then work the best in collusion with each other.
For both of you, how have you seen Coach Myers come in and acclimate to this program?
Yeah, Coach Myers, he came in with a little bit of observation at first, saw how we did things, saw how we attacked the day, and kind of added on to that. He's a big energy guy. He brings the spirit. He brings excitement to each and every day, and that's a big thing going forward. A year is a long time. There's a lot of games, so having a coach that there and bringing that energy is a big thing.
Yeah, I think to build off of what he said, the biggest thing that Myers has brought is energy. He makes sure that every day we know we're going to go into these games that we're playing early on, and we're planning on winning them. We're not just going there thinking we're outmatched or thinking that we're the underdogs or anything like that. We're as good enough to beat anybody. And then, DG and Merce and D-Man, they all prepped us on what Myers was going to be like, and he's been everything we need and more. So.
Anything else for these two?
When you say energy, what does that look like? What is the energy? What's that kind of look like for either of you?
Yeah, I think he sends us messages every day. He's like, let's go attack today. And then we'll go talk pre or post daily routine, and he'll tell us he'll go around each individually and tell everybody how they did today and how elite they looked that day. And then he'll say, he'll tell us straight up, we're going to go to UNC, we're going to compete, and we're going to have a lot of heart. So.
You want the first question?
Okay. Jake, in the fall, Coach mentioned that he'd been working with you specifically on throws from first base to second base. Can you talk about that progression in your defensive game?
Yeah, last year there were some holes defensively with throwing. I wouldn't call it the yips, but there was definitely some areas to work on. Even a couple times in the season where it showed up. So made a conscious effort this fall to kind of focus on that, especially team-wide too. with having so many new guys in the infield, getting them acquainted with kind of how we run things is important, and just kind of cleaning up the little things so they don't come back and bite us in the end.
Jake, what's the process like from going from a freshman last year to taking on more of a leadership role this year?
It's been different, with more experience, more responsibility, and we got a lot of new guys, but Cooper's done a great job of rallying infielders, and I'm more of a lead by example guy. I'm not super vocal, but if something needs to be said, I'll say it. So, with guys like Devin and Corbin last year and Gilly, it is a bit of a transition. So this is kind of the first time where either of us has probably been in a spot to kind of manage this many guys and leave our mark on the team.
Jake, your summer on the Cape, what do you take from that experience and going into the season?
It was tough, at first, and being in an unfamiliar place probably didn't help with that. But I got my tail kicked in a little bit, and I think that was good for me. You get to see everything. You come back here, and there's nothing you haven't seen. So, going through this year when we're going to be playing some more top 25 ranked teams, it's going to be really important to have those experiences.
Cooper, how excited are you to play this kind of non-conference schedule? You got LSU, North Carolina, a bunch of others.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting for us, especially for a team like this in the Midwest. Going out there and seeing the good talent, it's not very common you find that, and I think it's a good test for us early on in the year. We don't want to go somewhere and not play a bad team, but we want to get tested early. It's good for the RPI and stuff, but we want to go out there and just test what we can do. It's great pitching, great hitters all around, so it's going to be a good test early on for the year.
Obviously, very cold out here, and you deal with that as a Big Ten school. How do you kind of adjust to the work that you're doing indoors to once games actually get going outside? What's that process like?
I mean, it's similar. Obviously, it's a little bit unfortunate that you got to be inside at this time of the year, but our Coach Mercer was just saying everyone in the country right now is inside for the most part. I mean, everybody's getting hit with the snow and stuff, so obviously it's an adjustment, but we're not very used to it. Did it last year, and a lot of guys do it in high school too. It's something that we're not used to, and at this level of sports, you got to be able to adjust, day by day. So that's kind of that's the plan.
You guys both had success at the plate last year. Is there any extra work, or any goals that you set in the offseason that you've tried to hit to continue that success offensively?
I wouldn't say specific goals, but knowing that teams are going to have more film on us from summer ball and all of last year. So, as freshmen, we got a lot of fastballs and stuff like that. So, saw it out in the Cape. I'm sure Coop saw it over in the Northwoods. Guys are spamming off speed. So, it's an adjustment for sure. But we have the tools to help us be successful on the field, and we're going to go put them to work.
How optimistic are you guys both that you can have a special season as a team?
I think it's going to be I think this group itself is a special group. Obviously, we have a lot of older guys, but I think that we kind of embrace the leadership role of this team. Everyone who's not a freshman, even some freshmen on the team, it's like everyone here wants to be a leader, and I love that. It's just a winning team. There's a lot of winners in this team, which I like a lot. Everyone comes to work every day and works their butt off, and that's what you want for a team. I think we're hungry, man. It's a good team, and a lot of guys who want it, so it's gonna be exciting.
Jake, same question. Optimism for this season?
Very. This is one of the most cohesive teams I've been on, team chemistry-wise, in my years of playing baseball. And there were a lot of us last year that are back this year that have a bad taste in our mouth from how that season ended up going, especially in the Big Ten tournament early in the season. So we have guys that know what it feels like, and we have freshmen that are hungry. They want to win, and I think everybody's on the same page.
Jake, what makes this team so cohesive? What is it off the field that makes you guys such a cohesive group?
I think we made more of a conscious effort to, hang out with each other outside of the field, whether that's going to get breakfast or lunch or stuff like that, hanging out to watch IU football. And just being around each other more helped out a lot with that. We got a lot of young guys. I mean,
16 young guys, a lot of young guys.
16 freshmen plus our sophomore class. There's only 2 in the junior and a couple transfers. So now everyone's new, but from day one of the locker room, it felt like a special team, and everyone got along really well.
You guys watch a lot of IU football together this year?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Exciting year.
That was great.
Anything else for these two?
Cooper, Jake said that he is more of a lead by example guy. How does he lead by example? What's that look like?
I mean, just go and work every day. he comes in and hits every day. Everyone sees that. In my opinion, there's two types of leaders. There's vocal leaders, and there's guys like him who just go out and work their butt off every day. For young guys too, it's like you can get a little lazy, or you don't know how kind of works in college. What guys when they go in they hit extra, or when they take more ground balls. That's the biggest thing with him, I think, is that people see how much he works, and they want to be like him. Obviously, he's a great player. So to be a young guy, even last year with us, like a lot of guys that were older last year get extra work in, and we see that. And that's the biggest thing I would say. Just like watching guys go in and get better every day.
Too much.
Coach, you mentioned a few times last year that you talked a bit about the difference between a prospect and a player.
Yep.
And we hear a lot from the guys we've talked to so far today about a cohesive team.
Yeah.
So how do those things kind of go together for this current season coming up?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. There's always kind of a juxtaposition, right, where you're as a baseball player, we all wanted to play at the next level. I wanted to play professionally. We all want to play professionally, and we've done a great job of that. We've got a lot of guys in the big leagues, a lot of guys in the Pro Bowl. Your responsibility while you're at Indiana is to win games for Indiana. And when your time is done here, our responsibility is to help you learn how to play the game at the highest level. It's a lifelong impact if you have a chance to play, not only professionally, but at the highest level professionally for a long time. You change your life, your family's life, and everybody in between. So our responsibility is to teach you how to do that. So when you leave here, you can go and do that. And your responsibility when you're here is to play the game in a way that allows Indiana to be successful while you're here. And so that's always the balancing act. Failure is part of the process, and you'll learn through that. And so there's that minor league baseball aspect to things sometimes where you have to fail and learn how to do it, and you're becoming a better player for that. What we have to do, and what we're all kind of trying to figure out, is what level of growth and learning is an acceptable amount during the game, and what's should be reserved just for practice, right? And everybody's in a different position as far as their programs are concerned. Is how do you recruit? How do you acquire talent? How do you develop it? And how do you maintain it through the course of a player's career? We're going to be a high school dominant model. It's just the way that we're structured, financially, academically, regionally. For us to have a high ceiling, we're going to have to be a high school dominant recruiting model, and so we're going to have to be able to develop players internally without becoming. There's a production aspect of it while you're here, and not becoming so prospect driven. I think it's a multi-layered question, and so I think this group, and we talked about it just today. I thought the first 80% of our practice was outstanding. I've really enjoyed this group. It's been one of my favorite. That's not my favorite group. Probably my second year here, that COVID year, that team got canceled. That was a really fun group to coach. But I thought the first 80% of practice there was outstanding. And then we didn't do a very good job of transitioning into that. We had that kind of a 2-inning scrimmage there at the end. We didn't do a great job of finishing a practice, and kind of talk about that same concept. You have to remind them every day of it is we have a plan, we're going to execute a plan, and I expect that to be the way that we go about it. So I think this group has a really good feel for it. I think the group you don't have as it's a younger position player group, and so you don't have as many of the moving pieces going on all the time with them. And then you have a predominantly older pitching staff, right? So you've got graduate transfers on the staff and freshmen and sophomores position players. So, you don't have as many of those things that are kind of going around all at the same time. So that kind of helps that message to land a little bit better too.
What are the 2 or 3 things that need to happen for you to have the kind of season you want as a team?
We're going to have some production offensively from guys that haven't done it before. I think there's 3 or 4 guys that are capable of doing it, but they're going to have to learn quickly how the game is played at a really high level. And then, on the mound, I think we have more depth than maybe we've had. Now we're going to have to stay healthy and do all those things. But we did recruit to have more depth, and so we're going to have some of those guys take a step forward and have not just depth of capability, but also the high end and the high end stuff to be able to go and get outs when it's really tough to get outs. And then we're gonna have to manage through all of those things against a very difficult schedule. and so we're I think we're better defensively than we've been. So I feel strong about that. I think we're in a good position there. I think we're going to have to be able to offensively finish at the bottom of the lineup. I think your first 4 or 5 guys are going to be fine. And then how do we finish innings? How do we get to that 5, 6, 7, 8 spot? And with guys on base, finish innings with guys that haven't done it before. And then, if you have 5th, 6th, 7th inning guys, if you have a bunch of those, we're going to have the guys that can start the game and guys that can finish games. And I like the way guys are trending, but I would say the depth of the offensive lineup and then the height of the staff against a difficult schedule, which was scheduled intentionally. If you want to be the program you want to be and you want to compete at a high level, you have to go play against those teams and learn to beat them in those environments, and that eventually becomes you. So I would say those 2 or 3 things will be the things we'll have to be able to manage in that environment. And it's unforgiving, but at the same time you need that. You need that feedback, and I think that sets you up to be able to make your run once you learn how to play at a high level.
Coach, what makes this group so fun?
I think there's multiple pieces to it. One is it's a younger group, and so young groups they don't know what they don't know. Sometimes can be a good thing, and sometimes can be a bad thing, right? So it's fun that they'll show up to work every day, and they're eager to learn. They want to learn. There's not an ego to the group collectively. And a lot of your pitching staff is either young or old, right? Very young, right? You don't have a lot of the middle ground guys, and so the grad transfers that came in, they just want to win. They've been through all of it, and some of them have had injuries and whatnot, so they want to really win. And the young guys just want to contribute, and the position player group is primarily young guys, so they want to contribute and they want to win and they want to compete. So you don't have a tremendous ego to the group. They want to learn, they want to get better. They listen, they're coachable. And so there's a lot of quality attributes to them that make them a lot of fun to coach. I think the group has gotten a lot better over the course of the fall. You can look at our fall scrimmages from the first scrimmage against Ball State to the second scrimmage against Xavier. We were tremendously improved just in several weeks. Well, that's not, we didn't magically coach them terribly different. That's the ability for a group to receive coaching, understand what happened, what went right and what went wrong, and then to apply it in real time and have a much better outing there just 2 or 3 weeks later. So I like the personality of the group. It's been a lot of fun.
Coach, this new era of college athletics, you do have to go to the portal and grab a couple guys. What was that process like for you, and who are some of the guys that have stood out to you that can play a key role this year?
Yeah, obviously when you lose a couple of those guys on our current staff to the draft and then graduation, and then we had 2 high school arms, Fisher and Barr, that were both drafted as well. So you're losing 4 or 5 arms there to professional baseball or the draft at the high level. So you kind of had a pretty good idea we're going to have to go and do that. We set kind of a direction early on, kind of late season into that, right before the summer started, is we were going to go and try to do the grad transfer. That was going to be our main function, unless there was a young guy that really jumped off the page for us. And we were fortunate that for whatever reason there just seemed to be a few more grad transfers in our regional market than are typically available, and we were able to secure them. And so we did well. We landed what we wanted to land. So it was a wild summer. It was a wild summer. Coach Glant and I really handled the primarily the recruitment, the communication of the portal, and then the visits of the portal. And it was a month there where you're doing 1 or 2 visits every day for a month. You're probably doing 30 or 40 visits there between the 2 of us. And then Denton and Zach were on the road, recruiting seeing our 26s, and then setting ourselves up for the 27s, because as soon as the draft is over, you're on to 27s. You have to build out your 27 class in the fall. So it was a lot of work, but it was a really I enjoyed it. It's a really good group of kids. I think you'll really like them. I think they're good, but they're also really good kids. I was very adamant, very straightforward about what we were looking for culturally and expectations as being a part of the program, and you attract what you sell, and so you sell it, and you're adamant about it, and then you attract those guys, and then it's been really pleasant to be around them, and they've learned and gotten a lot better. Several of those guys have made really big jumps. We set a plan. This is a little bit different, but we set a plan probably 2 years ago now. I asked Dustin and Denton about what could we do. I felt like we were developing 5 or 6 arms a year at a high level, and we did. Like the top half of our staff would be really good, and then we didn't quite have the depth. If something went wrong, there was an injury or we get off schedule, we didn't have the depth to be able to handle that. And so we're not going to have a standalone pitching facility, but ask them what we could do to essentially build a pitching facility. And so they put together a plan. And when fundraised, we put in a new force mound and all the cameras, and I think that part has really helped some of those older guys. And so that's been fun to watch the application of that in those grad transfers that are also making a jump, because they're smart enough and they're far enough along that they can apply the information, right? Their gameplay is high enough that they can now make mechanical adjustments, and we can start to look at how we're moving and then make a bigger jump. So that part's been nice for them as well.
Coach, I wanted to go off of what you're talking about with the new pitching kind of advancements. You've been working with Coach Sagerman for a long time, since your time at Wright State. How important has he been to the development of these players, and I guess how important has his kind of ideas and thoughts behind analytics been on and off the field and in the weight room in the off season?
Yeah, Denton's been my right hand guy, my right hand man for going on 10 years now. When he first came in, we wanted to be a very player development centric program. We felt like that was what we had to do to be successful at a high level, and we've done a good job of that. But the offensive system that we changed probably 4 or 5 years ago now, he was instrumental in helping us to implement it and then track it, and the numbers bear out incredibly well. But when we first started that, we didn't necessarily know what direction it would go. We hoped it would go well, but he was able to put some parameters in, and he did all the coding and all the stuff to pull it out, and we could show the growth and the areas that we had to adjust. The pitching stuff he's done a really good job with the pitch design, studying pitch design and pitch shapes and the changes in that way. I've really been happy to see now that he's been able to, before he would have hands-on in the coaching staff, but he couldn't go coach the players, right? So he pulls all the numbers, gives the ideas, gives suggestions, but he can't take it onto the field and then coach the players. But this year, with the new force mound and his role changing, he's been able to now go and apply it directly to the players. And so that part's been a lot of fun. It's something that he's talked about wanting to do. We have our end of the year staff meetings, and hey, what do you want to do with your career, and what would you like to see change, or what's it look like? And his career path has changed from, he was an aerospace engineer, and then he gets into player development and operations, and he wants to be a coach. And so now watching his career path change, and then watching him be able to communicate and work with the players has been a lot of fun. And then you see the growth in those guys. You see that applying. But a lot of it's been in the development phase, and the game management part of it, I think, was where we're fortunate with Coach Myers coming in, is in his wheelhouse and his strength. And then Denton allows him to focus in that area. Denton can still continue to really. There is a reality if you change a pitch shape. If a guy throws 5 miles an hour harder and increases his vertical or his horizontal or throws a sweeper, I mean, that's a real thing. That matters. But you also want to have somebody that can really manage the game with it. And so putting those two together, I think, will be a really successful pairing. But yeah, Denton has been foundational in the offensive stuff that we've done, a lot of the pitch design stuff that we've done, the weight room. He works with, that we don't have outside of, you'll have a bone break and you have, Tommy John. You're going to have those things. We look at it like we don't have hamstring injuries. We don't have, knock on wood, we don't have quads. We don't have adductors. We don't have obliques. Chris Virtue does a great job in the weight room. We have a tremendous strength coach, but also Denton is a conduit in between to make sure that he knows what's going on in the program, and so we're not overtraining one area by not communicating. So Denton has done a marvelous job over the years.
Coach, going back to more of the offensive side, Cooper and Jake, they had impacts at the plate last year as freshmen, and obviously they were freshmen, so they were young. But I'm just wondering how you think their production last year How do you think that they will build on that coming to this year, putting in more work? They said that they have a willingness to show up, and do you think that will set a precedent for their teammates, at least on the offensive side?
Sure. Yeah, both of those guys going through the battles as a young player. Jake played every day. Cooper had to work his way in and eventually kind of won out the shortstop job and did a great job. But they've kind of been through it. They were like high-level high school players. Jake could have been a draft pick if he wanted to. Cooper was a draft pick. So those guys were on the main circuit, on the main stage. And so when you're talking to, other young guys are going to have to step in and play, they're able to be relatable, right? And then they came in and had success. And so they're able to be relatable to their other teammates, which I think is important. I talked to Cooper a little bit today. Jake hit in the middle of the lineup almost the entirety of the year, right? Cooper, this will be a little bit different for him to be more of a middle of the order kind of guy. Is you're going to get pitched. You're going to get pitched a little bit differently, and you may not get the first pitch heater. You may not get the second and third mistake. You may have to, and typically when you're in those situations, it's that you're as a finisher, right? So you're hitting fifth, you're hitting fourth. There's guys on base. They're trying to really pitch you. They're trying to really execute. And that's a different role than sometimes hitting a little bit lower. And there were times that Cooper hit in the middle, don't get me wrong. But so that will be an element for him. Like he's going to have great swing decisions. He's going to have great direction. You're going to have to be on time all the time. Like you're just going to have to be really good at being able to manage your at bats consistently. And I'm sure that they will. So I think they're relatable to the other guys because they've done it and they've been there before. But they're also going to have to be able to manage themselves in that way the game is going to adapt to them. And they're both smart, hardworking, really good kids, so I'm sure they'll do well with it.
Coach, how have you seen Coach Myers come in and fit in right away?
How do I see him?
How have you seen him fit in right away?
Yeah, he's just a very positive person. When he was the head coach at Western Kentucky, when I was an assistant there, and I adored him. I thought the world of him and his wife Shelly. So we had always had a good relationship. I thought over the years watching him at all different levels and talking to players that had played for him, one of which was one of my high school best friends that pitched for him at Western Kentucky, is people always talk about his positivity, his infectious, his relatability, his enthusiasm. So watching him interact with the guys has been fun, especially in a time where there's transition right before the season. There's a lot of emotions are high, and so I've seen him transition well with that. And what I enjoy seeing him is the gamesmanship of it, where he's in the middle of the bullpen talking about like minor adjustments that I think apply really well in real time, and it can be a part of the data and technology, and it can not. It can be maybe more of an old school. A guy that's been a college pitching coach for 20 plus years, kind of those things as well. So his personality, I think, has transitioned really well. I think his just experience working with young people really translates well to making quick adjustments. So I've seen a couple of those guys have made nice jumps with him. I've mentioned this a couple of times. I think was pretty special. He coached his son's Little League team to the Little League World Series back-to-back years, and then was a high school coach and took their team and won the state championship about the same time frame. And people say, well, why is that important? It's like working with young people is working with young people, and the ability to communicate a message, to articulate it, to help people to be positive and confident, I think carries a lot of weight, especially when there's a long season like that. So I think those things come together to make me really confident in his ability to work well with them.
Anything else for Coach?
Coach, you talk about getting the younger players up to speed. Are you hopeful that the tough non-conference slate that you have to start the season will help them acclimate more quickly than if you had a weaker schedule at the beginning of the season?
I'm banking on it. Yeah, it is. It's a great question. It was probably a couple years, 2 years, 3 years ago now when they were bringing the Pac-12 schools, and everybody's debating on how you schedule, and you're trying to, obviously you want to have a higher winning percentage and high strength of schedule, and that impacts your RPI, and there's still a human element, and going and doing hard things together and competing together and learning and having feedback is really important, and so going and playing difficult teams early on gives you the best feedback. And so we felt like that was important for us to go and do more of that, and it does. Like you're not saving them by not exposing them early on. And so by going and doing it, they've seen it, they'll come through it, and we're talented enough to go win. I expect us to go compete and play well and win. But when you leave there, you're a better team for it. And so I'm expecting those freshmen to go down and to play well, to be successful, because they're capable of it, and then to come back and really be confident as they come back and go into conference play.
Thank you.
Indiana and number 11 North Carolina start their seasons at 4 p.m. on Friday, February 13th in Chapel Hill. See you at the BART.